One of the main goals in anxiety therapy is to build up safety networks in your brain, which can compete with your old anxiety memories, with your old anxiety networks. And to do so, there are many techniques in anxiety therapy, like, for example, exposure therapy, in which new memories are created, which tell you, well, I was able to go through the situation. I even experienced that with time, the anxiety was becoming less and less. Even though I was frightened in the beginning, I was able to face the situation and nothing dangerous really happened. This is one of the best ways to create safety memories. Another way could be cognitive reframing by, for example, reframing anxiety as excitement, and therefore it already feels less threatening. But even if we were able to build up these safety memories, these safety neuron networks, they are still competing with our old anxiety networks. But a very easy to implement but effective strategy that can be used right before you go into a anxiety evoking situation. So for example, if you have to give a public speech, or if you have to enter an airplane and you are afraid of flying, or if you have to enter a situation in which you usually have panic attacks, a very easy way could be the so-called mental reinstatement, which means nothing else but remembering, before you go into this situation, remembering situations in the past in which you were able to go through these situations, in which you successfully coped with this situation. So instead of going into autopilot and to think of moments in which you had panic attacks, think of situations in which it all worked out quite well, and surprisingly well. And if you do so, chances are that if you go into this new situation, your safety network is already primed. So this is something you have heard in the podcast quite often from me, priming, which means it's a kind of pre-activation of neural networks. And if you just remember your past success stories, your past safety memories, chances are that your neural safety networks become activated. And I know it almost sounds too easy, and the question is, does this really work like I promised? And therefore, let's take a look at the study by Miskovsky, Kraske, and colleagues. By the way, Michel Kraske is one of the leading anxiety researchers worldwide. And in their study, people with strong spider phobia had to go through a confrontation, an exposure therapy. Therefore, they were shown a big tarantula, which of course made them feel very anxious in the beginning, but during the therapy they approached the spider more and more until they realized, well, it's just another living being which is probably more afraid of me than I am afraid of it. And they even learned to touch the spider and to take the spider on their hand. And after this confrontation, their anxiety went down from above 80 on a scale from 0 to 100 to just a little bit above 10. So the confrontation therapy again was extremely effective, because from now on they almost had no anxiety of spiders. 4 weeks later, they were invited to the laboratory again, and this time, half of the participants were asked to use mental reinstatement. They were asked to remember what happened last time and remember the place you were in last time. So therefore, they had to remember their successful exposure therapy. And probably in this way, their safety neural networks were activated. And indeed, in comparison to a control condition, who were asked instead to remember what they do every morning before they go to school or university or to work, in comparison to this control condition, they experienced less return of fear. So they felt really better. They really had less anxiety when they had to face their fear again. And for everyday life, the consequences are quite obvious. It is a really easy strategy whenever we have to enter a fear-evoking situation. It might be very helpful to just take a moment beforehand and to think of past successful situations in which we were able to face our fear and to think of situations in which actually nothing evil happened and we actually were quite safe. And in this way, chances are quite good that when we enter the fearful situation, when we have to give a speech, for example, that our safety memories become activated, that our safety networks become activated. And the more often we do that, the more memories will be created, the more safety memories will be created. And on the other hand, the anxiety networks will be used less and less, and therefore they will be deconstructed, because something we don't use will be deconstructed in our brain over time. We all know the saying, use it or lose it. And this, of course, also applies for anxiety networks. And then the more often we face our fear successfully, the more we will get into this upward spiral, and the more we will feel fearless and free in all these situations. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it a little bit helpful. And if you want, we will see you next time.